This is the third video of the series. We're gonna use columns function inside of VLOOKUP, so dynamically that column index number changes. Control page down to go back to COVID-19. Last time we entered this VLOOKUP function and we changed that column index number right here, this number manually. These are hard coded. But this time we're gonna change the enter columns function inside of it, so it's dynamically change when we copy to next cell. The columns function gives a number of columns you selected in range. So equal columns. There's two columns, column function, column and columns. Column function just give a position of column of that cell. So it's not range, it's just P column is a 16th column all the way from A to the P. That's what column function. We need a columns function to calculate the number of column and dynamically increment the numbers by 1. So hit equal columns, select the columns and tap to complete the name. Now we're going to select that P1 and enter colon. That will bring automatically the range that P1 to P1 and close parenthesis, control enter. So that's the column of 1 because the range is in the same position. P1 to P1 is 1 column. If we copy to next cell, next cell, next cell, it keeps giving you just 1 because that range is relative references here, so it keeps moving. So to increment that number, we need to lock that P1 stays in P column, and when we copy to the Q, it will be P1 to Q1, or will be P1 to R1, P1 to S1, so the numbers get incremented. So F2 again to edit that cell and move to P1 and hit F4 3 times to lock that column and hit control enter, and now you copy to next cell. It's incrementing the number here. So P1 to P1 is 1 column, P1 to Q1 2 column, P1 to R1 3 column, P1 to S1 is 4 column. That's the idea, that incrementing the numbers inside of VLOOKUP here, that the column index, if that column index gets automatically incremented when you copy to the right, you don't have to change that number manually. So let's go inside that VLOOKUP by entering F2 and delete that 4 and start typing columns function, columns, and select the columns, hit tab to complete. Now hit F2 again, so I can move around on the cell instead of moving inside a function. So I'm gonna just select the current position, which is I2, and hit colon, then it will bring the range I2 to I2 and close parenthesis of the columns function. Now I'm going to hit F2 again, so I can move cursor to that I2 to lock that column. Hit 3 times, locked column, leave rows open, and hit control enter. Now see that population changed. We bring the value of Afghanistan, of the country, instead of population. It's because, let's move to location, control page down. The columns function gives the number of 1, so it gives that first column instead of fourth column. So go back to COVID-19 by hitting control page up, and go to that function we just changed, F2 to edit. So these columns, by selecting, hold down shift and use cursor arrow keys to select the columns, and then F9 to see that value of that function is 1. We need to bring the value of 4 to bring population column. So Control Z to undo that. So in that column function, we're gonna add 3, so it makes 4. So plus 3. So now hold down shift and arrow function, arrow keys to highlight, and F9 to see the value. Now it's 4. So Control Z and Control Enter. Now the population value is coming. So Control C and to copy. So now is correct values showing up, because that columns, when you move to the right, this column n plus 3, that gives 5 now. Control Z, escape, and now go to next and hold down shift key, arrow key to select the columns, n plus 3 to look, and F9 to see the value, that's 6, and so on. So that's how you change dynamically the column index number. And then now you select the entire that cells and move that cursor to the edge, make a mouse point as an arrow cross, and double click to bring it down. So when you move that cells, you see that function inside a formula bar. You see the columns function moving around as a column numbers to increment the numbers. That's it for today. I'll see you in next tutorial.